receded halfway back his head, his brow permanently creased as his smile emerged from the crevices that lined his face, looked relaxed and vibrant in the stifling summer heat. He accepted congratulations in his softly accented Australian mumble. For almost 2 decades, he had coveted just these plaudits. But the question of whether the purchase was actually a triumph would be avidly debated in the Hamptons and elsewhere as the summer came to its close. Some called his timing all but laughable, given the print medium's sorry state. Most noted that the man who had always indulged his penchant for what he called populist papers had now steered himself into an impossible challenge, engineering the subtle metamorphosis of a beloved, sophisticated publication with a dwindling audience in the midst of the scariest medium moment in recent memory. Murdoch, worth $9 billion and ranked 33rd on the Forbes list of the 400 richest Americans that year, remained an awesome competitor. His challenges were just beginning. After capturing the Journal with a motley team of advisors and his shareholders' cash, he faced an inevitable battle with its staid newsroom, along with emerging calamities that would transform what had seemed a trifle in his mammoth empire into a drain on his business and his reputation. Gail Gregg held a unique position as the First Lady of Murdoch's biggest competitor, the Sulzberger clan who controlled the New York Times. She and her husband had fallen in love when they were both young, aspiring journalists, in the days when, thanks to Woodward and Bernstein, journalism was steeped in romanticism. After Nixon's fall, reporting was glamorous. The country had loved the Fourth Estate. The adoration was short-lived. It was no longer easy to enjoy being a member of America's most powerful publishing dynasty, reigning as Manhattan's all but official royal family. Online competitors mocked the self-importance of the once unassailable Times from cyberspace, as the accountants forecast the demise of the entire newspaper industry. Many of the other guests at the dinner party were also under siege and uncertain. Technology was upending the old monopolistic industry models, which had made newspapers one of America's great businesses. Media companies were collapsing as the nation fell out of love with publications upon which they once depended. Readers' patience was wearing thin. They had continued to subscribe to papers they perceived as lifeless, drained by their corporate owners of local muckraking, voice, excitement, individuality. Scores of papers across the country were closed or clinging to diminished existence, though the news, wars, terrorism, economic disaster, was more epochal than ever. Even the proud Sulzbergers seemed insecure. Gail's entrance to the festivities didn't cause the guests to look up as quickly as it once would have. Yet despite her earlier temptation to brave the waters of the Hudson, she was too tactful to make any sort of scene. Instead, as she spied Murdoch, she slipped off her shoes so she wouldn't scuff the gleaming white deck of the yacht, pulled her lips into a smile, and made her way on board. The year had been terrible for the Times, with an ever-diminishing paying readership and plummeting ad revenues. The company would end up mortgaging its new headquarters, taking a usurious loan from Carlos Slim Helu, a Mexican billionaire. Still, the Sulzbergers saw themselves as survivors. Among old-fashioned American journalism's most serious advocates, they were nearly unapproachable, closely engaged in the business, influential with editorials and endorsements, and involved in a modernization of the paper. But would they, too, be unseated? Would Murdoch or another usurper set his sights on their old gray lady? Would his ownership of their rival, the only other truly nationally influential paper, damage the Times by forcing it to become more commercial, or further weaken its already addled business? For 3 anxiety-ridden months, Gail and Arthur had watched Murdoch struggle to snatch up the Journal. Throughout the pummelings of his earlier takeover battles, the press baron always seemed buoyed by his jousts with the old guard, who disdained his screaming headlines and pulpy stories. But Murdoch's outsider status was yesterday's cliché. He had been a media titan around the globe for nearly half a century. Some may have seen his latest move as a brash upstart's most recent triumph over tradition, a view Murdoch encouraged, but it was